When I was in high school, I had my best friend was a kid named Jeff, who was not Catholic, as frankly most of my friends were not Catholic, and probably people who knew me wouldn't have guessed that I was Catholic the way I used to behave. Not like now. And Jeff used to always, when I was around the age of 18 is when I started taking the faith seriously. There was this kind of two-year transitional period from high school and my first 2 years of college to where I entered the seminary. So, of course, Jeff seeing me all of a sudden starting to change the way I acted and starting to pray and starting to, we would talk occasionally. And he kind of had the typical high school cool guy attitude about life, which is, I'm just going to go through and do whatever I want all my life long and commit all kinds of sins because I know in the last day or two of my life I'll just be real sorry for it all and then I can get in good and sneak into heaven. Perfect game plan, right? Jeff was essentially what we read about in today's gospel. You have the bridegroom is coming, the bridegroom being Christ, and the wedding celebration being, amongst other things, the celebration of him marrying the church, but also him inviting us into heaven. We can also consider this to be like, our own judgment. And there are different attitudes we can have. We can be people who either day in and day out try to live the faith, or we can be somebody who just kind of wings it and hopefully maybe I'll get in on a good note, maybe I'll die on a good day and sneak into heaven, kind of like Jeff, right? The virgins, the young ladies who brought the oil were those who were willing to persevere in their day-to-day struggle, and those who weren't were the ones that just kind of schlepped around, just kind of didn't pay much attention. However, there's another group of people that the gospel does not mention. Because you think about it, in both cases, the young ladies that are there waiting for the groom to arrive, why is it that they were unsure? Why is it that they're uncertain? Well, reading between the lines, because there's another group of people that were the close friends and the family members of the groom. You can imagine the bridegroom did not walk down the streets of some village and everything is dark and he's stumbling around alone and he's like, this is my wedding night and here I am bummed out alone, tripping over stuff. There was obviously a group of people with him. His close friends, his family members would have been with him, and then they arrived to the point where the young ladies are supposed to be waiting with their lamps lit and whatnot. Well, what if you and I, instead of trying to just sneak into heaven or get by and live a reasonably good life, what if we tried to live the life of the close friends of the groom? What if we chose and we decided seriously, I want to be a saint? Last Sunday, that's what we celebrated. All the men and women out there throughout history who have taken that invitation seriously. The men and women who were not concerned with just kind of getting by in their Catholic life, with just hopefully I make it to heaven. As long as I can be the last one to sneak in, I'm happy. Saints are not, in fact, saints don't even really consider at all what place they will get in heaven. Because already there's a tinge of selfishness in that. Saints are worried about loving God. They simply want to love Christ, to love God, to give themselves. And in the process, they're not real wrapped up about where they get in heaven. And in the process, they probably get some pretty cushy spots up there. Okay, so how does one become a saint? Well, there are the basic means that without which nobody's going to make it. If we are not men and women who pray and take advantage of the sacraments and spend time with the Blessed Sacrament and live lives of charity, you're not even at the beginnings of holiness. But if it was easy, everyone would do what I just said. So there are 3 tricks that I'm going to recommend, or 3 helps, in order to help us to be those men and women who have a regular life of prayer, who really take seriously all the gifts and the graces that the church gives in the sacraments. Number 1, to have a spiritual director or a spiritual guide or a mentor, spiritual coach if you want, however you want to put it, who is going to help us. Now, I realize If everybody is counting on the priests and the nuns and the deacons, about 1% of you are going to get to spiritual direction. I also realize that not everybody out there is a qualified spiritual director. So what are we going to do? Well, one thing that can help is this. Everybody, I think, knows somebody who we admire, who is doing a pretty good job living our faith. To have somebody like a buddy system, somebody that we are mutually accountable, that can be a huge help. Somebody where I have an affinity and we have the same kind of beliefs, we want to help each other, and we're going to push each other. And we're not going to let each other slide. And to check in and say, okay, how's it going? You said you were going to pray the rosary last week. How'd it go? Some sort of accountability partner can be a huge help. Number 2, it's not enough just to have an accountability partner, because you have to have something you're going to hold each other accountable with. Resolutions, goals. If you're going to be an athlete, anything from a high school athlete onward, little kids can kind of run around and just be athletes on God-given talent. But already by the time you're in high school, if you want to be serious at all, you have to train. And generic training doesn't cut it. Just say, I'm going to run around and do some exercise. No, you got to have a program. If you're playing football, you're going to have, today I do chest and shoulders. Tomorrow I do squats, and third day is my day off, and this day you've got goals and a program and an approach. If you're in the business world, you're going to form yourself. Because if you're not constantly upping your game, if you're not constantly staying relevant, you're going to fall behind. In any aspect of our life that is important, we need goals, and we have to have a clear idea, clear practices that I'm going to work on, not just to stay even, but to progress. Because if we don't, then we fall behind. Thirdly, something that can be very helpful is not only to have a one-on-one person, but to have a group that I belong to, a support group, a spiritual family. Here in the church, today we're celebrating the beatification last week of Blessed Michael McGivney. He's somebody who got it. He's somebody who was not content with just getting by in the spiritual life. He's somebody who was living a life to become a saint. And he started this group, the Knights of Columbus. If you talk to any of these guys with the swords, if they don't chase you off or scare you. He started the Knights of Columbus precisely to help people to be a support group, to build each other up, to build a brotherhood in the faith. And the Knights are not the only group out there. There are lots of other groups in the church. There are lots of spiritual families. Now, do you need a spiritual group to grow in holiness? No. Is it a big help for a lot of people, maybe even most people? Definitely. So, these are my 3 tips to grow in holiness. To have somebody that we're accountable with, a spiritual guide or buddy or something, to have a program, at least some basic resolutions that I'm going to work on regularly, and to investigate and see, is there a group that I think could be helpful to help me grow in my spiritual life? Commercial break. I also have a spiritual group that I help lead in this area. It's called Regnum Christi, and on December 5, we have an online retreat. It'll be advertised in your parish bulletin, Advent retreat, so anyone who wants to plug in online, it'll be a good opportunity for you. God bless you.